I think the number one principle is confront reality. I think advertisers and marketers and publishers, we all tend to be optimists, but hope isn't a strategy. We always think things are going to get better, and I think it's important to turn the spotlight back on yourself and ask yourself what's working and what's not. That's pretty easy to do if your business is in trouble or it's a turnaround. It's harder to do if your business is healthy. You know, beyond Dunkin' and Baskin-Robbins, you know, Apple is a very different company today than it was 15 years ago. Domino's Pizza had the ability to turn the spotlight back on themselves and say, we need to improve. Target's going through a major transformation. And so the question I would ask is, are you honestly assessing what's working, what's not, and do you have the courage to change that? You know, a big part with Dunkin' is embracing coffee. While our name is Dunkin' Donuts, the key to our business is coffee and everything that goes with it. And in fact, beverages are 60% of our business, and bakery, including donuts, bagels, and muffins, is less than 20%. So imagine embracing a product category and direction that isn't on your name. And that's been a big part of our success and transformation over the past 20 years. The second is, who is Dunkin' for? And it's interesting, I'm often asked, you know, from a demographic standpoint, is Dunkin' upscale or downscale? And the answer is yes. We're more defined by our brand personality than demographics. Dunkin' is really driven by people who view themselves as down to earth, proud to have things to do, and are really authentic and not driven by status. So part of our target is authenticity. And here again, as I meet with a lot of publishers and ad tech and other folks in the marketing industry, it's interesting how many don't have a real clear feeling on who are their highest potential customers. But also, the world is changing. We've all talked about millennials, but much of advertising and media and marketing over the past 20 years has been driven by the baby boomers going through highly predictable life stages. And today it's very different. Millennials are more different than baby boomers were for their parents. Everybody's chasing millennials, but how many of you have a great multicultural strategy? Latin or Hispanic customers will represent over half of the population growth in the United States over the next 10 years. I think it will be almost impossible to be a true growth company without having a good multicultural strategy. And finally, if you're in the food business, the changes we're seeing in health and wellness are really transformational. So a lot of it is, are you really and are we all up to speed on the rapid changes in our target customer group? The second, and in many ways the most important, I call it differentiate or die. And that's really, do you have a good answer to the question of why should I choose your brand over all my other choices? There's a tendency for us to all get caught up in ourselves and want to talk about our features and benefits, but not fully appreciate that whether you're in B2C or B2B, customers have choices, and they're evaluating all of us and all of you, not just on the merits of your features and benefits, but how do you differentiate yourself against everybody else? You know, if we had more time, I'd ask each of you to, write down your top 3 favorite brands. And more often than not, they would stand for something very simple. You know, whether it's established brands like Dunkin', or Porsche, or even Amazon, but new brands like Uber, Snapchat, or Warby Parker. You mention these brands, and they stand for something. I've seen very few powerful brands that stand for 10 things. But here again, as we communicate to our consumers or customers, whether we're in B2C or B2B, there's a tendency to go through a laundry list of things, and by that time, consumers or customers are glazing over. And so how much are you focusing on that? At Dunkin', our purpose, long before brand purpose was a buzzword, was Dunkin' is how the everyday folks who keep America running keep themselves running every day long, all day long. America runs on Dunkin' is more than a tagline. It's our brand purpose. We're built for speed in the morning. we're built for convenience, and so we build great products, great food and beverages in a fast, friendly, and convenient environment. And here again, how sharp have you really honed your differentiation? The third is be agile or be left behind. Consumer engagement is changing faster than ever before. We read all the figures that 60% of viewers multitask while watching TV. It was interesting, I recently saw a study that showed, guess what, we really can't multitask. That while we're listening to me and you have your laptop open and checking your email, and we're all quite proud of ourselves that we're multitasking, chances are we're only doing one of those. So what this is doing is changing the role of how we interact with consumers. I think that advertising is evolving into storytelling. Consumers expect us to be listening. They're viewing brand communication, whether you call it advertising or content, is more of a dialogue than it is broadcasting out to me. And it is changing at a fast rate.